Morning guys, I'm the Tech Prepper. Hope you're all doing well. This video is going to be raw and not the video I wanted to make for you, but I have to appease the YouTube overlords and put one out finally. I've been trying to do a experience video, that's one of my members calls it, and it was me basically going out into the field to show you how I set up my field mast in the Sonoran Desert, right down to all of the components, the knots, how I make certain decisions on where I deploy that mast based on available terrain features that are around me, how I deploy differently if I'm doing an end-fed half wave as a sloper versus a traditional dipole. In fact, I had a special kit here that I've been playing with. I actually bought a bunch of different tool rolls and I've experimented with a lot of different stake systems, and also have been working on some customizations to a 3D printed guide kit that one of my members has been using for a while, and I thought it would be fun to go and show you how I do all of this in practice. In fact, there may be a very small run of a custom tool roll designed for a kit just like this coming. If you guys want to stick around for a raw, unedited video, this is really about my view on product development. I have 6 more weeks that I've taken off of work to work on my own off-grid, offline communications platform. Actually does more than that. You can almost think of it as a cyber deck. In fact, it'll grow into that in the future. And as part of this process, I'm not writing all the software myself. I am finding software that's open and freely available for modification, and I'm integrating them, making sure that there are sane defaults to make it simple and easy to use. The philosophy is you don't have to be a nerd to use this. So one of the first things I worked on was this thing called plug and play support, where you plug in a supported radio and devices and everything gets detected and configured with same defaults, so you could just do the thing you need to do. The first thing that I did was start with the simpler devices, which is GPS. I am blessed that someone sent me an ICOM IC705, which has integrated GPS, and I integrated that last week, as well as a few other GPS devices that are on the market. In trying to test GPS, I wanted more than just the ability to set time. That's a very big thing for me. Time is critical with one of the applications we use, and typically in the field, what I will do is use my GPS watch, and I'll manually sync my time on the command line doing a bunch of nerd stuff. Not great. Or I'll listen to the WWV broadcast signal out of Fort Collins and also sync it manually. But it's really convenient now to basically have either the IC705 or another GPS receiver plugged in, and within a couple minutes of boot, time is synced in the field, no internet required whatsoever. But I needed a good use case to test that, so I thought, you know what, let's see what's out there in terms of off-grid mapping for Linux. And there's a very specific reason I'm not going to get into on why Linux and why I'm doing this. And the application is called Navit, but looking at it from a product perspective, it took me about a day and a half to figure out how to configure everything, because it does not make good decisions on its own. So as a good example, it had the wrong zoom level. In fact, this one is a little zoomed out right now. And it didn't include the ability to have the turn-by-turn direction marker at the bottom here. It did not have the orienteering compass enabled by default. It did not have the zoom out and zoom in capabilities. So a lot of little tiny things like that. It also had, looking at this guy here, the wrong sized icons. So I went ahead and kind of maxed out those settings and made it nice for a 7-inch display, so that roughly the pad of my finger is the size of the icons there. So what I also found was a few other quirks. So number one, talking about just experiences on what I discovered, GPS. I found that these dongles are actually pretty terrible. One, they don't have a great antenna, and the housing is quite large. So if you were to try to nest this into something like my FZM1, it would be at a cant and not properly making contact. The USB receivers that have the longer cable work great. In fact, there are 2. And I've had one for about 4 or 5 years, and that's the one that I'm using in the Jeep. Here's the shot within the Jeep. I have the Vector Off-Road e-dock system, and in the back there, you can see we have the mag-mounted GPS unit. And the GPS cable is plugged into the side there. I'm using the TacForm tablet mount, and what's nice is that these arms are actually adjustable. So if I need to get access to the power, I can move up and down these mounts, and that's something I had to do to accommodate the USB cable. You can see that this one is positioned higher up at the midpoint, and then we have this guy here. So really handy to have that 7-inch tablet. And like I said, all of these experiences that go into how I'm refining the product are based on doing usability exercise like this. You can also see I borrowed a page from Jason KM4ACK. I'm using Conky, and I'm actually adding support to really quickly tell you if GPS is plugged in and if it's fully healthy, that one, it has a time sync, and two, that it has a 3D fix for navigation. And then I have the navigation buttons already on the dock. Now we're gonna get back to the video in a second. Don't focus on the fact that I'm really harping on GPS. I really just spent about a day and a half detour working on GPS. The communications platform is mostly about radio, but all of the design decisions that I'm making and modifying for things like nav and GPS are the same types of decisions that are going into every aspect of the platform. I also found that there was an issue where I was not getting a GPS fix outside of the first fix. That turned out to be a bug in the software, not that I wrote, but I fixed that, and now I'm getting proper GPS fixes so that I can use it in motion, just not that first time. Other usability issues is that they have the ability for you to set the layout, and they've got a couple of different layouts here, and the kicker is at 5 p.m. local time, it will switch into car mode. And car mode is obnoxious. It's not so bad here, but it's really difficult to read if there's any daylight. So at 5 p.m., lots of light, could not read that. You go ahead and go back to that menu system and you put it into the normal car mode. Well, 5 seconds later, it doesn't care. It thinks it's nighttime, goes right back into that night mode, and you're kind of screwed. So kind of a pain in the butt. Also, the direction of travel for your route doesn't have enough contrast, and it will basically, you can't really tell the difference between the road you're on and the actual path you're traveling. And as you can see, it went back to the day mode because it thinks now it's during the day and our decisions don't count. So another thing that I found too, with the accelerometer, when I'm driving down the road, I've got this thing mounted, the accelerometer kicks in, and then it tries to orient it in this direction. You notice it doesn't do that anymore. Right now, it always stays in this location. So one of the other reasons why I need to do a full operating system takeover is because I need to be able to override certain settings. So I'm gonna go ahead and set that to false, which is the default. And for example, now if I were to do it, it would spin around, and it actually causes a lot of flickering when it's in motion. So the reason why I'm telling you all of this is that when you're trying to do simple, effective product development, especially the way that I'm trying to do it, where I may be deployed in an austere environment, it may be an emergency scenario. Let's say if something like Helene happens here in the Southwest, I don't want to have to worry about all of these little power nerd details. I want the same defaults for field expedient use. So anyways, guys, I just wanted to do a little bit of rant because this is how I'm looking at every aspect of the platform that I'm working on. I am simplifying. I want to make sure that now that I'm working on the communication side this week for at least a couple weeks now, that all of those applications that I start with and modify, that I make good decisions and customize them to be really simple to use. And again, I hate using the iPhone example, but I want the experience to be closer to what most users encounter with an iPhone. All right, guys, again, sorry, I'm going to try to get to my standard videos, but for me, it was really key to talk a little bit about stuff I'm currently working on, like this GPS stuff, and plug and play support for my platform. So hopefully you'll stick with me. We'll get back to normal programming when I have time, and certainly within the next 6+ weeks. Be strong, be safe, and be prepared.